All right, so today we're really diving deep. Alexei Mordashov. I mean, this guy
Quite the story.
went from like basically, humble beginnings, right?
Yeah, very much so.
To like owning a yacht. That's probably got a yacht.
Yeah.
It's insane. But to me, it's not just the rags to riches thing. It's, did he ride the wave or did he make the wave?
That is the question, isn't it?
I
And I think to really dig into Mordashov, you got to start in the Cherepovets steel plant, because that's where his parents worked. That's where he started.
Okay.
We're talking 1965, Soviet Union, rations for butter and sausage, the whole bit.
Wow.
To go from that to, one of the richest men in the world,
Right.
tells you a lot about how Russia itself transformed after the Soviet Union fell apart.
Exactly. Because this wasn't just like a savvy dude making like good business calls, right? Like the whole game changed.
The rules of the game were rewritten overnight, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're pulling this, by the way, this whole deep dive is from Mordashov's Wikipedia page, which honestly sketches out this like nuts journey pretty well.
And that's the thing you have to understand about him, is the backdrop of the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you have these massive state-owned assets like this steel plant.
Right.
Just ripe for the taking.
Wow.
Privatization, they called it. Imagine like the chaos of that, but also the opportunity. All these companies just kind of up for grabs, right?
Okay, so I kind of want to unpack that a little bit because I think, I don't know about you, but like I think that's where it gets kind of fuzzy for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. It's basically like the world's biggest garage sale.
Right.
But instead of old furniture, we're talking entire industries.
Wow.
And for someone like Mordashov, who's already, he's working his way up, he's become finance director by the time he was like 27 at this steel plant.
Oh, wow.
It's a chance to, get a piece. Or in his case, the whole pie.
He got the whole bakery.
The whole bakery,
Got it.
right?
And I mean, wasn't the story, he was basically handed the recipe book.
Yeah. There's this story that the director of the plant, who's getting up there in years, basically told Mordashov, look, you got to buy up these shares. We don't want this other guy taking over.
Wow. What a vote of confidence.
Right. What did he see in this young guy? Was it talent? Was it ambition?
Right.
Was it just right place, right time? Who knows?
Yeah.
But whatever it was, Mordashov uses these things called investment funds, which are basically like big pools of money
Okay.
to get control. And by 1996, he's the CEO of the newly privatized Severstal.
Wow.
At age 31.
31.
Leading what will become Russia's biggest steel and mining company.
That's younger than Zuckerberg when he was like, making Facebook happen.
Right.
But this is not like a Silicon Valley startup. This is like heavy industry.
Yeah, this is the real deal.
Yeah, tied into global markets, probably a whole lot of like,
Oh,
let's be honest, Russian politics.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. A lot of backroom deals, I'm sure. And here's the thing. He wasn't content with just dominating Russian steel.
Right.
He starts expanding, buys up coal mines, all these other companies, creates a true conglomerate.
Wow.
And get this, he even tries to get into the U.S. steel industry, early 2000s.
Right.
Buys plants in Dearborn and Columbus.
Gets a huge loan from the U.S. government to do it, right?
He did.
Which in hindsight seems kind of crazy.
It does seem a little strange, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The U.S. Department of Energy actually loaned him over $370 million to upgrade these plants.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, this was a different time.
Okay.
There was this hope, maybe we can integrate Russia into the global economy.
Right.
Maybe things will be different this time.
Yeah, spoiler alert, things did not really work out that way.
Not quite. It wasn't all about steel, though.
Right, because this is where TUI comes in, right?
Exactly.
I remember when I first heard about this, I was like, TUI?
Yeah.
The vacation company. What's this steel guy doing there?
Seemed like a weird fit.
Yeah.
But, looking back, it was such a smart move.
Really?
He gradually bought up more and more shares in TUI
Okay.
through his own travel company, which was called S Group Travel.
I see.
And before anyone really realized what was happening,
Yeah.
he was the biggest shareholder.
Wow.
And that gave TUI, which was already huge in Europe,
Right.
access to this whole new market,
Yeah.
Russia, Eastern Europe.
But then, like, once things went south with Ukraine, I'm guessing our Russian billionaire owning a big chunk of a Western company didn't go over so well.
You could say that again.
Right.
But even before that, even before the 2014 sanctions, before Crimea, there were already these signs,
What do you mean?
that the honeymoon was kind of ending between Russia and the U.S.
Oh, you mean like with that loan?
Remember that loan Mordashov got for the U.S. steel plants?
Yeah, over $370 million, right?
Yeah, but in the early 2010s, when things started heating up again between the two countries,
Yeah.
that loan, it got canceled just like that.
Seriously.
So
So they just took back the $370 million.
pretty much.
Talk about sending a message.
You're right. That was a clear signal. And I think Mordashov, he understood.
Yeah.
He ended up selling those plants by 2014.
Right before things escalated even further with Ukraine.
Exactly, like he was reading the tea leaves or something.
So maybe he wasn't like shaping global events, but he was definitely paying attention.
Oh, absolutely. He was adaptable, but let's talk about something he did try to shape.
Okay.
The media. What people see and hear.
Right. He was really involved in all that too, wasn't he?
Big time. In 2008, he starts this company called the National Media Group,
Okay.
along with Surgutneftegas, which is this huge energy company,
Got it.
and Russia Bank.
See a bank. That name rings a bell, and not in a good way.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. This isn't just some regular bank, you know.
How so?
After Russia took Crimea, the EU, they came out and said that Rossi Bank was basically the personal bank
Wow.
for all of Putin's inner circle.
Yeah.
The people who were profiting directly from what was happening.
So this is serious stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then you had those leaks, the Panama Papers,
Right.
the FinCEN files.
Right.
And they showed that a company connected to Mordashov was moving money around,
Okay.
funding projects and people close to Putin.
So it's not even just about making money at this point.
Yeah.
It's about power.
Exactly. Who has it, how they use it.
And Mordashov was right there in the thick of it, which honestly makes his story even more wild.
It's a bit unnerving, isn't it?
Yeah, because this is a guy who knew how to play the game at the highest levels
He did.
in business and in that like shadowy world of Russian politics.
And then 2022 hits,
Right.
the invasion of Ukraine, and everything changes.
Mhm.
The West responds with sanctions.
Yeah.
And suddenly all that wealth and power that Mordashov had built up,
Yeah.
it became a liability. The EU especially came down hard.
What were they saying?
They said he was too close to Putin, too involved with propping up his regime, and of course there were his ties to Russia Bank.
Right, and that's when we saw those headlines about the yacht.
The Lady M seized in Italy, hundreds of millions of dollars just gone.
Wow.
And it wasn't just the yacht either.
Yeah.
Sanctions freeze assets, restrict travel, make it really hard to do business internationally.
It's a hard fall from the top.
It is. Even for someone as rich and as connected as Alexei Mordashov?
Shows you that money can't buy everything, huh?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It can actually make you a target sometimes.
That's wild. So, like, where does that leave him, Mordashov? I mean, sanctions are one thing, but it's not like he's, back to butter coupons.
Yeah, it's not exactly back to square one. He's definitely fighting back, trying to hold on to what he's got. Like, remember that whole thing with PUI?
At the travel company, yeah.
Apparently, he shifted his shares, the majority stake, to a shell company.
A shell company. What, like a dummy corporation?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And it's supposedly controlled by, get this, the mother of some of his kids.
So trying to dodge the sanctions, make it someone else's problem.
That's the general idea. It's a classic move, honestly. Whether it'll work, who knows. But look, beyond all the money stuff, the legal battles,
Yeah.
this whole thing with Mordashov, it should make us think about the human side of it all, too.
What do you mean?
Well, we know he's been married twice, right? 7 kids.
Okay.
His first divorce, way back early 2000s. It was a whole thing. Public, messy.
Because of the money, I'm guessing?
Oh, yeah. He was initially ordered to pay, basically nothing in child support.
Seriously.
People were outraged, saw it as him trying to hide assets, obviously.
Yeah.
It ended up going all the way to, the European Court of Human Rights or something.
Wow.
It's a reminder that these aren't, comic book villains, These billionaires.
Right.
They've got families, issues, the whole 9 yards. Doesn't excuse anything, but it's complicated.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, what's the takeaway here? We've gone from Soviet steel towns to yachts to international courts. It's a lot.
It is. And I think it goes back to what you were saying at the start. Did Mordashov make the world this way?
Oh.
Or did the world make him? And the answer is, well, it's messy. He was ambitious, for sure. No question. Smart, knew how to use the system, especially after the Soviet Union collapsed. But he was also playing a part in that system,
Right, like that whole Russian capitalism thing where it's business and politics are the same thing.
Exactly. And for a while there, a lot of folks in the West, they were happy to play along. Until suddenly, they weren't.
Yeah, and then it's sanctions, frozen assets, the whole deal.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, here's something to think about. Keep an eye on the Mordashovs of the world. Because their stories, even if they're messy, even if they make you uncomfortable,
They matter.
they matter. They tell us a lot about where we are and where we might be headed.
That's a good place to leave it. As always, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.